Who you are is not defined by the mistakes you have made, but rather it's by what you do after you've made those mistakes. Do you repeat them or do you learn from them? Our art, our studio, that place that is our safe spot to make artwork, it's safe because we have that freedom to make a mistake and just accept that we've made it. We have that freedom to experiment and, most importantly, to play. Play is that place where we don't worry about the mistakes. We do something for the sake of doing it because we enjoy doing it. When you find that place, that becomes your studio. Welcome to my studio. Hello, my artists. Today, we are going to be making these value cubes. So the first thing we're going to want to do is we're going to take our ruler. We're going to want to line it up with the side of our paper. We're going to make it so it's parallel to the side of our paper. From there, we're going to make 3 lines that are each 2 inches long. 2 inches long. So you can use the markings on the ruler. You can space them out however you want to space them out. Just each one has to be 2 inches long. Now I have 3 marks, and each one of those is 2 inches long. Now I'm going to line up my ruler with the other edge of the paper. Make sure it's not leaning one way or the other. Hold my ruler down, and I'm going to measure again, 2 inches down. I had to readjust my ruler. There we go, now I got a full 2 inches. I'm going to make a little notch there at the end. Again, make sure it's parallel with your paper. My camera has a distortion, so sometimes it looks like my ruler is crooked. It's not. It's just the illusion of this horrible webcam that I'm using. I'm going to make the lines for each one of the cubes. And last, I'm going to complete the cube by drawing between the 2 lines on the sides. I now have 3 of my cubes made. I need to make 3 more. So I'm going to put these on the other side of the page. And again, you can space these out however you want to space them out. Make sure that your ruler is parallel with the edge of your paper, always parallel. You're using the sketchbook edges, since they're square, as a good gauge for making your cube square. If you want some variation, you can do this. If you just want to keep it simple, that's okay too. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do an angled line at 2 inches long. I'm going to turn this in, there's no way for me to know that that's going to be 90 degrees. It could be leaning one way or the other way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just take a sheet of paper that I know is square, and I'll put that onto the line, and that kind of shows me where my mark needs to be. Now that's a nice 90-degree angle. I'm going to just mark it with my pencil, pull it down. You can use your ruler or the paper. I did it very lightly using the paper, and then I reinforce it using the ruler. You can do that for all 4 sides on that cube. Again, you don't have to do this. You can just have them so they're all oriented in the same direction. Next, I'm going to create a vanishing point. That point can be anywhere in between those cubes. I do want it to be in between the cubes. I'm going to put a little X there. And just like in our practice exercise, I'm going to line my ruler up with the edge of that X, not pass in front of any other object. So you see I have that little corner there. I can't draw on it. Going from the corner up here, I'm going to line it up, check it, pull the line towards myself. Put my pencil down on the point, line it up, pull the line down towards myself. I'm going to do this for all the shapes. And again, don't pass in front of another shape. That'll ruin the illusion of what you're trying to do. Once I have one side completely done, then I'm going to move on to the other side. I always want to move from right to left or left to right, it just depends on your point of view. I'm going to do something a little special with this middle cube. Instead of making it so the lines can't move over top, I want to show you what happens when they do. So I'm going to draw right over top of this. Bloop. And you can see the line shows up in my cube, but wait, watch, I can still save this. I'm going to do the other points on this cube. Good. I'm going to go to this one, which I normally wouldn't put on because it passes in front of the shape, but I'll put it on. I'll put it on this one, even though it passes over the shape. So I'm using all the ones that pass over the shape. And what this is going to do is it's going to create the illusion that that's a clear cube, like it's made of glass. We can see through it, so we can see the other angles. If you want to experiment with this, you totally can. If you want to avoid it and keep things simple for this project, that's okay too. We all make mistakes, and right here you can see me making one. Instead of pulling the line towards my body, I'm pushing it away. So I'm literally doing what I'm telling you to not do. It happens. But remember, pull your lines towards yourself. Now that I have my cubes in place, I'm ready for the next step. If you're really struggling with these cubes, don't be afraid. You can always trace them from the worksheet. There's different ways that you can do it. Maybe find a square object and copy it 6 times. But try to measure them out. Try it this way first. Just like on the worksheet, I need to now turn these tall-looking towers into cubes. There's a very simple way to do this, and it deals with parallel lines. So I want to make sure that my new line is going to be lined up with the edge of the square that's on top. So right now I'm just getting my ruler, I'm straightening it out. Now I'm making that line on my 3 squares. That's the advantage of having them all in the same distance from the edge of the paper, is I can just use the ruler one time and get those plotted in. Next, I need to make sure that it's parallel to the next edge of the square, and I line it up with the line that I just put down. So it wraps around that form. The middle one doesn't have it, this one does. Make sure it's parallel with the edge. You can measure this or you can eyeball it. If you're eyeballing it, just take your time. Now I have my cubes all in place, but if you look, there are a lot of these lines, and that's not too confusing, but you look at that clear one and it is crazy looking. So this is one of the rare times where, yes, I'm going to tell you, you can use an eraser. If you want to go through and erase the extra lines that aren't the cube, now is the time. I'm going to leave one side intact just so you can kind of see how it affects the final image if I don't erase those extra lines. You'll see it really doesn't make a huge difference. We think of textures as being like these really complicated things to understand, but if you zoom in, you can see they're really basic things. It's just a little bit of shadow and light. It's a little bit of repeating pattern. Look at this cat's fur up close. You can't even see that it's a cat's fur. When I zoom out, you can see how it pulls together. It's the repetition of it that makes it work. For my first cube, I'm kind of thinking about that cat. I want to have like a long, fluffy look to this first box. So I'm just going to think about the cat's fur. And the cat's fur was just kind of these marks that just go in this general direction. So I'm just going to start kind of filling it in with this repeating pattern. And I'm going to put in some layers of it. So I'm putting in 1 layer and 2 layers kind of at the same time. As I create this pattern, it's starting to already look a little bit like a texture. I'm making sure that I'm not shading. I'm trying my best to keep the shape of the line intact. And in this case, I'm going to have it so the hairs are pretty much all going in the same basic direction. I want it to kind of look combed, so to speak. That's a much different texture than the practice one where I made it kind of look scuffled or swirled. Alright, next I need to do the side of the cube. And here's the thing, I've got 2 dilemmas. One is that it's clear on the cube that's next to it, and the other is I need to remember how to do this. So I'm going to have my hairs go down, and I'm going to have it follow the contour of the shape. The contour meaning the side of it. So these hairs I want to have go in this direction. They're going downwards. And I'm going to make sure that as I do these, I do them in a little bit darker and a little bit closer together than the ones on the top. That'll help with the illusion that this is three-dimensional. When I get to the side that's transparent, I'm going to do the same kind of thing. And I'm just going to draw right over that transparent area. So right here, I'm just going to have my lines go right over top, like that. And now it kind of looks like it's a little bit see-through. If I go through and do a little bit of shading or some extra lines, it'll help kind of complete the look. Alright, time for the second cube. This one's the one that I said I'm going to make into glass since we can see through it. So the question is, what's glass look like? Well, I'm just going to go ahead and I'm just going to do some light lines, all going in the same direction. This will hopefully kind of look like the reflection bouncing off the glass, the smooth surface. So the texture I'm really thinking of right now is smooth. I'm trying to think of just the light kind of raking across the glass. This next one I was thinking about kind of like a gravelly, broken sidewalk. So I'm thinking a lot about cracks. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn my pencil sideways this time. And I'm going to kind of drag it along to kind of create the cracks. I'm just going to kind of keep repeating that craggly line that kind of curves and zigzags around. And then I'll make some extra branches that kind of come off of that. Now the key to getting this to work, this effect to work, is to make sure that my sides line up. So if I have a crack that goes off the edge, I need to make sure that it changes direction going downwards and it kind of continues the crack that I had on the top. If I have separate cracks, then it's going to look weird. It won't look like it's tied together. And the last thing I'm going to do to kind of complete this effect is I'm going to darken in some of my cracks. I'm going to fill in some of these areas with what looks like holes in the kind of cracked surface. And I'm also going to kind of shade in some of the sides, just again to make it so that each side has a slightly different look than the next. Alright, for my students that want a little bit more of a challenge, this one I'm going to do like a roots or vine kind of system going over it. So I'm just going to start up with a squiggly line. I'm going to kind of repeat it just a little bit. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start up with these little ridges, this pattern that runs up just the length of the vine itself. When I get to the edges of it, of course, I'm going to droop them down, change the direction, and keep on going, like so. And I think I'm just going to play around with adding more of those on. Now, I want you to keep something in mind. While you're doing this, you don't have to do the patterns that I'm showing you. You can do whatever pattern, whatever texture that you want. This is your artwork. I just want you to play around with texture. So, for instance, if you want to make one that looks like slimy, I'm not doing that right now. But you can totally go do that. If you want to make one look like it's like granite, or if you want to make it look like it's made of grass, that's all up to you. You decide how you want to do this. Also, to my friends that are a little bit more leaning towards making cartoons, if you want to make these a little bit more cartoony, guess what? That's also okay. The awesome thing about a cartoon is it does help us to reduce complicated things, not be scared of drawing them, and just play around. The downside about it is if all you ever do is cartoons, it can hold you back from doing more intricate artworks. Alright, the next one I'm going to make it look kind of spiky, like it's covered with little spines or spikes. So I'm just going to do this kind of repeating, spiky, kind of checkmarky kind of look. And I'm just going to go through and cover this side really dense since it's the side, and I'll cover the top a little bit lighter. I'm not sure what I'm going to do for direction. I'm just going to kind of let it happen. But the whole time, as I'm drawing, I'm thinking spiky. Hey, I'm liking how this is turning out, but I've got this big open area in the middle. What do I do with it? Well, I'm going to do something interesting with it. You don't have to do something crazy like this, but I think this kind of looks like some weird animal, so I'm going to draw an eyeball in there. Have fun with these. Don't be afraid of really breaking out of the idea of that cube. Don't be afraid of having things sticking out or going into the cubes. Don't be afraid of kind of breaking them up. Yes, you have the cubes as the basis of your artwork, but, I mean, you can get as creative as you want with these. If you want to turn them into something else, if you want to turn them into crazy looking animals or parts of people's faces or a bunch of Lego blocks that just have textures on them, Remember, my goal as your teacher is just to have you experiment with making textures. You can do whatever it is that you want to do as long as you're meeting that only requirement. I should see 6 cubes, and I should see 6 different textures. Have fun with this. Time for the last one. I'm going to show you why patterns are so important. I'm going to start up a pattern. It's a 1-2 pattern. That's all I'm going to do. I'm going to fill this whole cube with just 1s and 2s. And I want you to see how that still creates a pattern, still creates something that changes. I need to make sure that my 1-2s follow the contours of the shape, so it has to go in the direction of the shape. I'm just going to fill this in. I'm probably going to, I'm going to get bored about halfway through, so I'm going to change it up a little bit and try some other sizes of 1-2s. This is literally filled up with 1s and 2s. That's all I put into it. I made organized rows on the top and made it more erratic on the bottom. But it still creates something that resembles a texture. We may think that that looks scribed in the surface. I don't know. But anything can become a texture as long as it keeps repeating. That pattern creates the texture. So have fun with this project. Don't stress about it. Just kind of go through and do it. I can't wait to see the amazing creations that you're going to do with this. This is one of my favorite projects to start up in a class, just to see how people's imaginations kick in and what they do. I'm Mr. Morris, and until next time, please remember, be kind to yourself and keep on making art. We'll talk to you later. Have a great day.